Daniel and his companions were rounded up with the others to be killed. But when Arioch, the chief executioner, came to kill him, Daniel handled the situation with great wisdom by asking, "Why is the king so angry?" Daniel was quite calm for a man who was about to be executed for not committing a single crime.
Then Arioch told him all that had happened. So Daniel went to see the king. "Give me a little time," he said, "and I will tell you the dream and what it means." Then he went home and told his 3 companions. They asked the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them the secret, so they would not die with the others.
Roughly 1,300 years before, in Egypt, the Lord had given Joseph the meaning of the dreams of Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker. But at least Joseph actually knew what the dream was.
And that night, in a vision, God told Daniel what the king had dreamed. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven, saying, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for he alone has all the wisdom and all power. World events are under his control. He removes kings and sets others on their thrones. He gives wise men their wisdom and scholars their intelligence. He reveals profound mysteries beyond man's understanding. He knows all hidden things, for he is light, and darkness is no obstacle to him. I thank you and praise you, O God of my fathers, for you have given me wisdom and glowing health, and now even this vision of the king's dream and the understanding of what it means."
Then Daniel went to see Arioch, who had been ordered to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said, "Don't kill them. Take me to the king, and I will tell him what he wants to know." Then Arioch hurried Daniel to the king and said, "I found one of the Jewish captives who will tell you your dream."
The king said to Daniel, "Is this true? Can you tell me what my dream was and what it means?" Daniel replied, "No wise man, astrologer, magician, or wizard can tell the king such things, but there is a God in heaven who reveals the secrets, and he has told you in your dream what will happen in the future. This was your dream. You dreamed of coming events. He who reveals secrets was speaking to you. But remember, it's not because I am wiser than any living person that I know the secret of your dream, for God showed it to me for your benefit."
"O king, you saw a huge and powerful statue of a man, shining brilliantly, frightening and terrible. The head of the statue was made of purest gold. Its chest and arms were of silver, its belly and thighs of brass, its legs of iron, its feet part iron and part clay. But as you watched, a rock was cut from the mountainside by supernatural means. It came hurtling toward the statue and crushed the feet of iron and clay, smashing them to bits."
Then the whole statue collapsed into a heap of iron, clay, brass, silver, and gold. Its pieces were crushed as small as chaff, and the wind blew them all away. But the rock that knocked the statue down became a great mountain that covered the whole earth.
After Daniel told the king his dream, he then went on to its meaning. "Your Majesty, you are king over many kings, for the God of heaven has given you your kingdom, power, strength, and glory. You rule to the farthest provinces, and even the animals and the birds are under your control, as God decreed. You are that head of gold. But after your kingdom has come to an end, another world power will arise to take your place. this empire will be inferior to yours. And after that kingdom has fallen, yet a third great power, represented by the bronze belly of the statue, will rise to rule the world.
Following it, the fourth kingdom will be as strong as iron, smashing, bruising, and conquering. The feet and toes you saw, part iron and part clay, show that later on the kingdom will be divided. Some parts of it will be as strong as iron, and some as weak as clay.
This mixture of iron with clay also shows that these kingdoms will try to strengthen themselves by forming alliances with each other through intermarriages of their rulers, but this will not succeed, for iron and clay do not mix. During the reigns of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. No one will ever conquer it.
It will shatter all these kingdoms into nothingness, but it shall stand forever, indestructible. That is the meaning of the rock cut from the mountain with human hands, the rock that crushed to powder all the iron and brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. Daniel wanted to make sure that God got all the credit, rather than give the illusion that it was all by his own special brilliance. "This was your dream," he said. "Thus the great God has shown what will happen in the future, and this interpretation of your dream is as sure and certain as my description of it." The head represented King Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon. The silver chest and 2 arms represented the Persian Empire, which conquered Babylon in 539 BC. The belly and thighs of bronze were Greece and Macedonia under Alexander the Great, who conquered the Persian Empire around 330 BC. The legs of iron represented Rome, who conquered Greece in 63 BC. The feet and toes of clay and iron represented the breakup of the Roman Empire. The rock cut from the mountain represented God's kingdom, which would be ruled forever by the Messiah. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell to the ground before Daniel and worshipped him, and commanded his people to offer sacrifices and burn sweet incense before him. King Nebuchadnezzar was not used to bowing down to anybody, let alone a Hebrew slave who was on the verge of being executed.
"Truly, O Daniel," the king said, "your God is the God of gods, ruler of kings, the revealer of mysteries, because he has told you this secret." Then the king made Daniel very great. He gave him many valuable gifts, and appointed him to be ruler over the whole province of Babylon, as well as chief over all his wise men. Then, at Daniel's request, the king appointed his 3 companions as Daniel's assistants, to be in charge of all the affairs of the provinces of Babylon. Daniel served as chief magistrate in the king's court.
Daniel went from being a man on death row to a man of high office. Like Joseph roughly 1,300 years before, God had placed Daniel in a position of great influence in a pagan nation. King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet high and 9 feet wide, and set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. If the gold head in the king's dream represented him, why not have a statue that is all gold? Was the king hoping to change the future events described in his dream?
After the king put up the statue, he sent messages to all the princes, governors, captains, judges, treasurers, counselors, sheriffs, all rulers of all the provinces of his empire, to come to the dedication of his statue. When they arrived and were standing before the monument, a herald shouted out, "O people of all nations and languages, this is the king's command. When the band strikes up, you are to fall flat on the ground and worship King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. Anyone who refuses to obey will immediately be thrown into a flaming furnace."
King Nebuchadnezzar did nothing by halves. You were either with him or you weren't.
So when the band began to play, everyone, whatever his nation, language, or religion, fell to the ground and worshipped the statue. But some of the officials went to the king and accused some of the Jews of refusing to worship. "Your Majesty," they said to him, "you made a law that everyone must fall and worship the gold statue when the band begins to play, and that anyone who refuses will be thrown into a flaming furnace."
But there are some Jews out there, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have put in charge of Babylon affairs, who have defied you, refusing to serve your gods, or to worship the gold statue that you set up.
Perhaps these officials were jealous of the sudden promotions of these young Jews. Then the king, in a terrible rage, ordered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be brought before him. "Is it true that you are refusing to serve my gods, or to worship the gold statue that I set up?" he asked them. "I'll give you one more chance. When the music plays, if you fall down and worship the statue, all will be well. But if you refuse, you will be thrown into a flaming furnace within the hour. And what God can deliver you out of my hands then?" The three men replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not worried about what will happen to us. If we are thrown into the flaming furnace, our God is able to deliver us, and he will deliver us out of your hand, your Majesty. But if he doesn't, please understand, sir, that even then we will never under any circumstance serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have erected." This is one of the Bible's most famous moments. The three bold foreigners who were willing to be burned to a crisp rather than worship anyone or anything but the Lord their God. The king was kind enough to offer them one more chance, but one chance was all they got.
Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and his face became dark with anger at the three men. He commanded that the furnace be heated up 7 times hotter than usual, and called for some of the strongest men of his army to bind the three men and throw them into the fire. So they bound them tight with ropes and threw them into the furnace fully clothed.
And because the king, in his anger, had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames leaped out and killed the soldiers as they threw them in.
These strong men must have been proud to be thought of so highly by the king, until they got that job. And to all who were watching, the 3 courageous young Hebrews appeared to perish in the same fire.